Welcome everyone to week 4 of Cedarville Esports here. Okay, sorry. It was Discord overlaid a second ago. Alright, here we have a really strong game here today. Cedarville versus Minnesota State Mavericks. The Mavericks here have also been undefeated, so both teams are going into this 3-0. One will actually have to leave with their first loss today. We're in our ban phases, on which both teams get to decide characters that they want to get rid of and not see for their match, and characters that they want to save. Interesting, a Luna ban right off the bat. Usually a character we see every single match. Looks like the Mavericks have preyed in on this fact and decided to work their composition without a Luna.
Honestly, with how well Cedarville has been performing recently, what do you expect the opposing team to try to ban in this current pick so far?
Well, clearly they, as I expect them in the future matches, we'll see how big of an issue physics has always been. He has always been the key target ban, and Cedarville's target save right off the get-go. In fact, as you can see in this first save for Cedarville, they have immediately saved Psylocke because physics has been such a consistent machine in all of this. We'll see how much scouting they did ahead. They went after Mag because that has also been a consistent pick for Logan, but I don't know how aware of the DPS threat they are. So we'll see. Okay, interesting. An Invisible Woman save here. And perhaps Cedarville is keying into the fact that they're after the supports. In return, we will see Ryan here on the Captain America. He either that or Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange will be nice to get back on point. Ever since it seems that Magneto's out of play, that's his immediate first pick. Torch protected. Interesting.
I was just about to mention that. It seems a little odd that they would save that character instead of ban it, considering how good overall Human Torch has been in both regular play and conference play here.
It's possible that the Mavericks here also have a key player that's really good or spent a lot of time on Torch. We'll see if that pays off for them, because the moment that they overinvest in that, they're going to have to compete with Physics' own Human Torch later down the line.
Okay, so if it does come down to Human Torch head-to-head, who do you think will come out on top?
I'm not sure. I actually have not seen the Mavericks play so far. Wish I could give a little bit more information on that, but we're going to have to see, presuming in this next match, how well their Human Torch is. I'll try and answer you back on that after round 1.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we're heading into our main pick for the game, and so it looks like we'll get in there in a couple seconds.
So, our first map is in the futuristic Wakanda here. We will be playing a domination map, which, for those who aren't aware, it's purely teams will take control of the very center of the map. Whoever can get the other team off of it completely and stay there will capture that point, and slowly over time accrue percentage. Once they get to 100%, they win the round and go to the next. And it's 2 out of 3 in total. We'll get you net you the map win.
Well, that does not help for DPS, but I appreciate the comms boost.
Leave it to T'Challa to rise above his fellow man. Literally.
20 seconds, that map area will unlock.
This deserves your attention.
So Logan here on high ground, playing his classic signature Emma. Interesting. Mavericks have decided to place themselves on high ground. It's a little bit of small of a room, and it's a little questionable how they'll get out, but they're making decent headway. And there's an Emma isolated on the ground here. She's going to get picked off. In fact, they get the enemy Psylocke. They're also going to be similar. Physics has to play against both mains on the opposite team, which will be interesting because he's very proficient in both. And here we see Ryan almost killing off the Loki here, targeting the supports and really going in all in on diving. Trying to distract him from heals. Cedarville gets another pick, and it's very likely that Cedarville here will get this first point. at least capture it. Yes, and they do. Ryan running back to his team, getting heals, making enough value and making their support look away. And Cedarville looks strong position-wise now for the first point.
Just letting you know. Chris.
Enemy located.
And we're about to begin this next fight here. They have Winter Soldier now. Winter Soldier and Psylocke, it seems. The Logan trying to shred the tree, almost catching the Groot. Groot is down, and they tied up with a kill on physics, so they're still fairly even. Ults are getting thrown here by Cedarville using Cloak and Dagger. A very stalling kind of ult. It just heals everyone or damages people slowly over time in an area. Logan using his ult, trying to get everyone to commit to using their own resources, and they do, which is a better net positive for Cedarville. However, Logan himself gets caught out, pushing a little too far up. Boosh, looking to catch somebody, the Winter Soldier with the shotgun. Getting caught instead by the Emma ult and likely dying as a result. Cedarville will likely lose this point. However, note that they have already gotten 75% of control and are still stalling. It might be 80 before they all finally get wiped out. Past 80. 85 maybe, if you're lucky. A moment. They're looking at the stats board. 94. I was so close. Alright. It was about time Minnesota fire back. It's to be expected, but Cedarville still very high up in comparison in percentage. Logan. Ooh. Boosh gets caught out on the side again. Although this time much earlier than before. Cedarville will probably have to back out now and give Minnesota some respect. Especially since it looks like they are fully investing with Psylocke ult and Groot pushing in. I'm not sure if they use more ults than that. So Cedarville will definitely have to back up.
Help. So cold.
Percentage starting to accrue now for Minnesota. But much more ults are available now for Cedarville. They open with the Punisher ult. Huge amounts of damage, that ult. Shredding through the trees, but not fast enough. Meaning his ultimate essentially gets wasted out here. Loki clones are getting thrown away. Groot ult being used. Lots of resources on Cedarville needs to keep everyone alive. However, they were not able to keep their own Groot alive. This is not looking good for for Minnesota now, as they've had to use 2 ults and they've gotten very little purchase out of it other than staying alive. 3 from Winter Soldier trying to throw this this fight around. Boosh trying to hunt down the Psylocke. Psylocke almost dead. Probably will not be able to help to this fight. Will actually fall a little early here. And Cedarville already caps point. It's looking very bad for Minnesota here. Cedarville will capture point. The last consideration is Strange Portal, which just got used, but they're just trickling in here. They're not able to group up fast enough, and it's likely all for forfeit, as Cedarville looks to wrap up round 1. Oh, great push by Logan Hirschberger with his push. Pushed everyone back through the portal and preventing them from jumping and touching for point to stall a little longer. Great job. Great look from Cedarville. We'll see how Minnesota responds.
So we saw at the beginning of the round, they banned Human Torch, but we haven't yet seen them using Human Torch.
And I'm a little surprised, because if you're going to save that for that kind of hero, unless it was just throw off the team, but everyone can see each other's stats in this game and this division. So you can't really make a surprise play like that. I would expect them to bring it in at some point, but I guess looking into our composition, looking into Cedarville's composition, they didn't want to pick it. Little perplexing.
It is interesting. They had another Psylocke, so we did have a Psylocke v Psylocke battle. Do you think that the Psylocke main on Minnesota's team will be the one to play Human Torch later, potentially? Or would it be someone else?
I believe so, but I feel very trouble for Minnesota in this case, because both of their DPS picks are both ones that physics enjoys. And so any ban that they have on one of the strongest members of Cedarville's team will also affect them disproportionately. Namor here instead. Possibly the same person. No, it's a different person than the Winter Soldier, and it's almost paying off, except Logan is being kept alive by his support, but then falls. So actually Minnesota gets 2, Cedarville gets 1. Cedarville backs up. Actually no, they have 1 person on point. He will also have to probably back up. I'm guessing that would be Ryan on the Captain America. Oh, note here, however, that Bush already has his ult. He's been doing a lot of damage. Depending on how things play out, he may want to just early engage with it. He might want to wait for his tank line to show up and position themselves ready for it so he can get the most value. And Cedarville has high ground and are fully back in the fight. Probably looking to find their first pick. They find it using Logan's ult, actually. Oh, but then Ryan gets caught out as the supports were too busy dealing with whoever was on the side there. Namor dies. Cedarville is ahead 1, ahead 2. Looks like Cedarville's win. Interesting. Logan committed ult here. Little early, in my opinion, but it did just guarantee that they flipped the point at a much earlier percentage too. Bush still has not used his ult. I'm guessing the key is to wait for either to use his ult to bait out one of their own support ults or waiting for the support ults to get fired off and for them to have nothing to reply to it. Thor there. We'll see how much more value Thor can provide for their team versus Ryan's own Captain America here. It looks like they've taken a note on their Cedarville's composition and taking a play out of the book. Great cloak wraith. I'm actually not familiar with this specific term. Was able to avoid the Thor ult. However, Thor does catch him in the end, gets his in target, just not with his ult, meaning it was a little slower for Minnesota. But they should still be able to cap after Ryan stalls here for a bit. Actually, both tanks are alive. I guess they may just both stall until they die. Yep, and that's exactly what happens, and Cedarville is slightly ahead in percentage. Cedarville will wait for their tanks to come back, which shouldn't take too long. Captain America usually able to move fast anyway. There he is. And they're both ready to start getting into position. Now, they're going to be about equal in percentage by the time they start their actual fight on point. Meaning at the end of it, if Cedarville does win, Minnesota will be ahead. In fact, they already are ahead. Bush trying to catch the Loki. Loki almost dying here. Had to use his ult early. Not ult, sorry. Had to use his lamp early. Cedarville replies to that Emma ult with the Cloak and Dagger, meaning they can take a lot more space now. Minnesota's looking to be cramped up in a tiny box. Bush looking to use his turret to get as much value as possible. Just shooting into the shield. Finding value. Oh, but is caught out with getting focused when he was in his turret form. Not looking good for Cedarville now. All the ults are getting thrown in here. A portal to point. I'm not sure who threw it. Okay, this is Cedarville's portal. The same desperation play we saw Minnesota make earlier. We'll see if they're able to do better with it. Ryan still in the fight is out now. He just came back. And it looks like Minnesota will tie it up. Very close game. Much better, I would say, support gameplay from Minnesota's end. They were able to keep themselves alive a lot better through this Loki.
So I'm seeing the same thing about last game. They still don't have their Human Torch.
Yeah, I'm also a little surprised by that. My theory is that it's an open map, but if that's the case, they would have known that from the start. So, very curious there. But they did get off the Psylocke. They went Namor. And just overall, I think that the main thing isn't necessarily the picks I'm noticing. It's more of just good positioning and timing on their end. So we'll see how Cedarville responds to that, and if they'll also be able to change up their gameplay. We are opening with Strange though, so that shield might change things a bit. Maybe it's to help protect DPS, namely Boosh. That's my thought. Well, I guess we'll see.
It is interesting. They do have also the two characters on their team that have passive damage with Loki and Namor, both being able to put out either turrets or projections, being able to deal that passive damage over time and kind of refocus Cedarville's efforts from doing DPS to the actual players into the bot turrets.
Namor on the right there. Strange looking to catch the tank line. Unfortunately, is caught out himself with that aggressive play. Cedarville has to back out here. They've lost too many players, and if they die at this point, it will just be staggering. Except it's looking a little hopeless. Minnesota pushing all the way to their spawn does indeed catch one of their supports, meaning they will have to wait even longer to catch to the next fight. Boosh to ensure the team's safety decides to just fire at the entrance there and gain more space for the team. Since Minnesota can't really do anything to address them there, unlike last time. There's a lot of people on the side here, notably Winter Soldier. He's not getting focused and immediately gets ults. And catches multiple members of Cedarville. This is most certainly going to be at least half a team wipe and a full team wipe once the rest of the team catches up to the rest of the players. Not looking good from Cedarville's end, but they do have ultimates to call on. Problem is, so does Minnesota, likely to support ults, which can cancel a lot of them. So crucial timing and position will be needed for these.
Once we all get back.
Psylocke engaging on the side against enemy Thor. Typically does well. Ooh. Very strong Namor ult there. It kills Boosh. The support's barely able to stay alive, but it wasn't enough in the long run. Ryan gets caught out on the end, and it's another stagger for Cedarville. Minnesota very close to capping. Cedarville needs to get on point this fight and win it if they want any chance of flipping the map over to them. Catches Winter Soldier early. Both Emmas trade out their ults here, trying to move in. Logan catches Namor, gets the kill. This looks very strong from Cedarville's end. It's very likely that they will take cap after this. Minnesota also mistakenly throws their ult in, believing they can still win this fight. At this point, it's only a matter of time where they get pushed off. As you can see, Cedarville has already capped. And this is just going to continuously stagger. In fact, the Emma, realizing this, finally jumps off. But only after wasting so much time on there. Invisible Woman on Minnesota's end almost dies. Would have been an amazing play for Cedarville if they had. They're just going to have to take what they can get and back up. Minnesota only needs to win one more team fight to secure this map win. Cedarville has a long gauntlet ahead of them. Namor and Thor up top. And their entire team is up top. Boosh is probably one of the best people at this point to answer back, but he's one man against 5 here. Physics will take time to get back, and unfortunately, some perfectly timed ultimates from Minnesota will catch all of Cedarville out.
Control lost. You'll have to keep fighting until we have a winner.
Cedarville made the mistake of grouping up way too tightly against those ultimates, which thrive in those situations.
Well, you can't expect to win them all.
Namor's ult is specifically an area of effect ultimate that denies any movement ability caught out in it and does massive damage if anyone's caught directly in the middle. And Winter Soldiers is another area of effect ultimate that does a good amount of damage on its own. That once it catches a kill can be refreshed and used again. And so he caught out somebody at the dead center, and it just was able to chain off kill after kill after that. Cedarville is facing some strong coordination. We'll see how it looks in the next round if they're able to adjust, but this is looking like their toughest opponent they've had so far.
If we don't...
Going into
Which hero do you think you want to be today?
Who needs four when you've got one like me?
excuse us there, technical difficulties. So the bans will tell us who Cedarville and Minnesota have found really problematic. I believe Minnesota will probably go for physics again since they realized their own Psylocke was not finding much purchase. Again with the Luna. I guess they really dislike Luna. Usually is considered, other than her ultimate, a fairly tame character.
Okay. Which heroes will get my cosmic favor?
Psylocke is protected. And if I see another torch, I don't know what to say at this point. I know very little about the game then.
I don't know. I am half expecting to see another. Oh, not another
okay,
torch.
there we go. That makes far more sense.
I don't know. We still have one more save that they could pick to save Human Torch again.
Let's see if they'll ban Magneto again. If they've had issue with Magneto in the past, Ryan was not able to play his main character here. Yes, exactly the same thing happened. One of their DPS, likely the Namor, or actually it could be either. Both Namor and Winter Soldier both fit the archetype that plays Hela and Phoenix there. So they're saving their own. Boosh is Punisher, which is one of his key characters, and very few other teams actually play. And we'll see who Minnesota chaves. I would guess Namor. I'm actually not so sure. No, Winter Soldier. Okay, the other DPS pick. While I would say that their Namor wasn't having as much value in the mid and team fights, his ultimate usage has been incredible. So I was a little, but so too was the Winter Soldier on Minnesota's end. So it could have been either or. Rocket ban. Namor. Okay, makes sense from Cedarville's end.
The right heroes could make all the difference.
Alrighty, so with these new bans and saves, how do you think Cedarville's strategy may persist or may change in this next coming round?
In this next map, they're going to have to look at their Minnesota's ults a lot more. That's how they've been losing the team fights in particular, is because the individual DPS ults have had so much value in them getting caught out. So with Namor gone, they have a little bit more space to move around. We'll see if they can not get punished as easily with just individual picks in the front. If they can be a little tighter than before, we usually see the strength out of Cedarville more. So that is what I would assume would be their game plan into this. especially with the likes of Boosh getting picked out really early. If they can better support him now in this upcoming map, they'll be a lot stronger in the upcoming team fights.
4, 3, 2, 1. You have to stop them from securing the mission area.
Ultron from Minnesota may be a little hard to play to against the Punisher, but they're going double flyers, so there might be a little too much for Boosh alone to look at. And Physics caught really early. Very atypical. In the last few matches, Physics has had this almost inhuman, miraculous survivability in the midst of teams. But it seems like Minnesota is clearly not letting that happen again. Ultron almost caught out here. That's Iron Man, if not for that pillar, would be dead, and is dead, is caught out position. But Cedarville already lost the support here, which is very key for them, and catches 2. So 1 DPS versus support ult in this game. Ignoring ults, usually the support would be more valuable here. Sustain is much heavier a factor in Marvel Rivals compared to many other hero shooters, especially when ultimates are in play, but even more so during regular team fights. Cedarville loses point 1. Physics will have to try and find better value against these flyers. Probably just gonna have to focus on the 1 support and 1 grounded DPS here. An early ult from Groot. It is returning kind by an Invisible Woman ult, and in fact, Groot is almost looking to die here. Cedarville is spending so many resources in trying to kill him, but is still being kept up alive. A fantastic job from Minnesota supports here, especially also in walling off Ryan here on the Doctor Strange. It's very hard for him to get much value without risking dying himself. Except, Logan dies a little early. If they had been able to keep both of them alive, I'm convinced that Doctor Strange would have been able to ult and get value. But instead, looks like they lost their tank line. Minnesota committed to ultimates and swung the fight over to their favor. This is not looking good for Cedarville, given that they still have nearly 4 minutes on the clock. They need to chip away more at this time if they want to have a good chance of stopping them from ever capping 3rd point. They'll have 1 more team fight here. Boosh commits his ult early, catches 1. It somehow is miraculously not killed by the Iron Man ult that was shot directly above them, and is shredding through one after one more kill on Minnesota's end. Fantastic moves from Boosh. Great support from Cedarville's backline, and looking much better than they were before. Here, Boosh is able to stick to high ground and shoot down at both of the flying supports here, and hopefully Cedarville's front line will be strong enough to stagnate Minnesota from pushing in from the front as easily as before. Turret's a little harder to catch people in the air. It's doable, but a lot harder than just, switching back out. And in fact, he may have wasted too much time here and allowed for Minnesota to take the flank and control the sides of the map. And Cedarville did not widen out enough to check those, meaning they got shot at from a new angle that they weren't at before, and all had to reset because of it. Cedarville at least managed to win 1 team fight and slow it down, so 4 minutes starts now. They'll have spawn advantage, but it's still looking like a very tough fight, and Cedarville needs to make more adjustments. Logan throwing his ult out, trying to catch the DPS, notably the Iron Man, but also this isolated Groot. Groot is probably going to die here. Never mind, as I heard Mantis ult getting thrown there. Doctor Strange ult trying to catch the same tank line again. Groot is just unkillable. Nope, I shouldn't have said that. A moment I did. Commentator's curse. Groot had died. Boosh using the same ult that had won his team the fight earlier. It shreds the Cloak and Dagger for trying to push in, and catches 2, likely to be 3. And Boosh looking like the star player today. Usually it's Physics, but instead Boosh here reminds everybody why he's a part of this team.
Need some ranged firepower.
He stopped them in their tracks.
Boosh trying to get some damage here through that tiny crevice in the wall, or at least make more of a bigger dent of a crevice. Rivals has a feature where a lot of walls are breakable, and therefore you can get more shooting angles or destroy cover. Minnesota's tanks take a decent bit of damage here. Physics jumps in, commits to using his ult, catches 2. Amazing play from by Physics. Boosh is worried about flanking or any flankers, but I predict that Minnesota is going to back out here after losing 2. Almost going to be losing 3 at this point. Signs of life from Cedarville. 2 minutes down. Oh, but Physics caught at a key moment here going into this next fight. At this point, Minnesota should be back. Did Groot just use his ult? Or did I hear that wrong? I guess it's the same voice line over and over again, so it's not unheard of. I'm mixing the thing up. All right, we have a lot more ults being used by Minnesota, and a lot more losses on Cedarville's end. It looks like Minnesota will cap here.
We are undefeatable. The current score is 0.
Very dominant showing from Minnesota, but not impossible with the last-minute team wins from Cedarville.
I'm not a hero. I'm the Punisher.
You'll need a top-notch team to
Now,
win
we were
this.
talking a lot about how Physics really likes to main with the Psylocke and Human Torch. Do you think that he would pull out the Human Torch on this particular map, or stick with Psylocke for his main?
I suspect it's still going to be Psylocke purely because there's far more utility, usually mid-air. Like, if he goes Human Torch, he's going to be up against 2 people that fly, so they can check him in the air. And all the additional support from the ground. So whereas if he went Psylocke, he goes invisible. He still has amazing burst potential to two tap and uses a right click ability and dash into a Iron Man, for example, and just insta kill him, which is much better chances of you hitting almost direct shots with your shotgun primary fire with Human Torch, because you have to be right up next to them. And Ultron has multiple dashes. Iron Man has to shift to get away. It's a lot more risky of a move as opposed to Psylocke here.
Now about Boosh, the current team MVP, at least according to the last match stats. How do you think he's going to change up his playstyle now that they're on the offensive?
I think he's just going to keep on poking, keep on looking for flyers. I'm more concerned about next match because if they continue with this flying setup, it's almost certain that Punisher is going to be banned. And Cedarville needs to keep him alive a lot better than they are currently, especially since they aren't pulling back for him as much. At least they aren't directly behind Boosh to see his HP. Frontline battle is always pretty grueling to look at. It's just a giant tug of war, back and forth, trading between shielding, backing up, and rehealing. And really it's more of an ultimate charge fest at this point. It's the squishies or lower health characters that usually end up being the more key early decisions. If one falls, and that swings a fight. Both tanks pushing a little high up here. They feel pretty confident. I can't see everything, but I'm assuming that someone was very low and everyone had to back up. But all things considered, Logan here is fairly healthy and is doing good numbers here, almost to his ult. The same is likely to be said about Minnesota as well. The Mavericks haven't been no slouch here. However, they catch the Iron Man early. They're using all their key ults here. Cloak, however, dies on Cedarville's end, and unfortunately, they were not able to capitalize off that Iron Man kill. In fact, they spent how many ults? Key ults were used. Groot was used there. I think Mantis ult was as well. But 3 of Cedarville's no, 2 were used. Okay, so Cedarville will have 4. It's almost certain they have the ult advantage. Especially for something like Punisher ult, which has worked so well for Cedarville, that is going to be something key to watch as he shreds through tank lines. Once these trees are shredded, I'm going to assume that he's going to abuse it. Iron Man caught out. Again, this has been a consistent issue for them. Punisher looking to try and catch the Ultron, but Ultron is deciding to sink low back into the Cloak ult. Too many walls, too many things to look at, but still catches the Emma, canceling his ult. Oh, Iron Man dies, but trades out his ult for Boosh, taking out the Cedarville star player at the moment. And Cedarville only has a minute left to try and cap this point. Iron Man has been a consistent weak point. However, the tanks have been able to make up so much more for it.
We also see Physics here switching on to Moon Knight to try and see if he can get that cluster damage since they're all so closely interspaced with the enemy team.
It seems to be working because the tank, which we were having so much trouble with earlier, is finally shredded. Boosh is low, but they need a they need a touch at least on point. Cedarville already lost 2 and 3. It's not looking like they'll be able to be sustaining for this fight. They're going to for a desperation play with the Strange. This is their last hope, but they did not have any time to touch. Minnesota 2, Cedarville 0. Looking very bleak for Cedarville.
Well, you can't expect to win them all.
Here's Season 3. Stats don't tell the whole story, that is for sure. But I do want to point out Boosh has nearly 23,000 damage. Physics 16, Logan 14, Logan Hoffman specifically. Usually Physics is much higher on his KD as well.
It definitely seems that they've been having a lot of trouble with the opposing team's DPS, and especially that Groot. That Groot has been insane with his wall placements.
When they did switch to Moon Knight, it did seem to shred him quicker. I'm not sure if there was something else there or if the supports were caught out in a weird position. But Physics may need to do something more drastic. In fact, he does. Since they're on the defense, they're going to do their tried and true hold in the front with Hot Head Skull and on the Penny. So that does mean that they have a major composition shakeup. Of course, the bans are... Oh, that's right. Physics will not be able to play Luna here because they constantly ban Luna every single time. Emma Frost has decided to be banned. They are going all in on the fact that they're having a new tank line. In fact, now Magneto is saved, so this is the first time we get to see Magneto all game. Minnesota will have to ban someone else. They picked Hela to save. We have not seen Hela all game either.
It is interesting. Hela's usually been a first-round ban out of Cedarville, but now that it is not, it seems that Minnesota instantly jumps on the fact that they have to have Hela on their team. Do you think that's going to be a critical part into how they play today?
Well, we haven't seen how strong their DPS are at this character. I'm assuming that Cedarville's been banning them ever since out of fear of that, and that's why they're going with a Winter Soldier ban as well. Which they didn't face last round. We will see how much more valuable it is. I'm also concerned over the fact that with this new composition shakeup, even if they wanted to switch to a new comp, Physics will almost undoubtedly be forced to play Human Torch, since Psylocke has been banned here. Cedarville has protected Namor. I'm actually not sure off the top of my head who might play that other than maybe Boosh, because he's been such a hit scan player.
It has been interesting. We saw Namor being used in the very first match, and him being used relatively effectively. But now we even have another Human Torch ban. Will they even play Human Torch?
Not even banned. It's like save.
Protected. I need coffee. That's what I need. But another Torch Protect out of that Minnesota team. Will they even use him this time?
I'm not sure. I would have said yes confidently with first round. Not as sure anymore. Ultron ban. Okay. If it does end up being a Torch 1v1, getting rid of Ultron is pretty valuable. The key changes and things to look forward to in this upcoming map is the Ryan back on Magneto, Hothead Skull on the Penny, at least for first map, with this new hold, and Human Torches possibly abound. Physics on the Invisible Woman. Great team player, being able to play both support and such a heavy DPS, able to step back from the limelight there and being flexible on a very high level support. We'll see if he gets any specifically fight turning pulls or pushes. That is usually the key factor for Invisible Woman's distinction between other supports. And Boosh has decided to go Adam Warlock, which sometimes heals, I guess. Sometimes.
Useful in the one desperate emergency that the team has.
Yep. But I suspect Boosh picks him mainly to click heads, which is a tendency. Alright. Looking into this first fight here. Venom here. Looking after both the supports. Venom gets caught out here, but he does gain Minnesota some space. Hela has been spotted behind Cedarville's backline, but Cedarville still catches multiple kills here. Magneto, low, wall here. Minnesota barely survives. Good hold, but they're going to have to do this for almost 3 minutes straight. Mag, out on his own, almost out, almost barely lives. Cedarville poking at their backline, making sure that nothing can sneak up on them. Unfortunately, Cedarville's Penny falls here, is going to be respawned, so that they'll be fine, but it looks like there is a backline. Yes, there is a dual threat for going after Cedarville's backline. Now, they're still all tied up, given that Adam Warlock can still respawn. However, it's clear that this dive is going to be very problematic if they don't make more adjustments. In fact, Adam Warlock is probably looking very close to dying here. Nope, is able to fight off the Venom, just barely. And now he's back. He didn't have enough this time. He's going to pay for it, though. In return, though, Ryan loses his life. We'll see if Cedarville will be able to push them back into the bottle. But when you move the cart along that much further, it's really hard to do just that. Venom pushing again to the backline. Namor ult does not catch anyone, actually. So Cedarville will be able to fight it off. However, the tanks are going to be, especially that Penny, is going to be super low and is not going to be able to get healed right now. We'll see if Cedarville will decide to play around Adam Warlock's ult and just decide to just throw themselves at the cart and just prey on the fact that they'll be resurrected. but they already commit multiple ults here, and many of them are already likely to die. Adam Warlock will probably have to push themselves a little further back. Nope, decides to res early. Resurrects 2. Ryan gets one, looking to catch another off the Loki. Unfortunately, is getting doved on. However, is able to be resurrected again. It's just a constant resurrection machine from Cedarville. And this long-term sustain, despite all the kills and all the deaths, is able to fight off Minnesota. More picks from Cedarville, likely to be staggered. I don't think a strange portal will be necessary here. However, the Minnesota will have to do something here. They do have a lot of positions here on Cedarville, but they're not quite as coordinated as before. Namor ult does find physics here on the Winter Soldier. Ryan throws his Magneto ult, but and Magneto on the opposite team dies. Adam Warlock was able to live for so long that his resurrection cooldown is back, so his death is resurrected, as well as Logan Hershberger's Rocket Raccoon also getting resurrected at the same time. Cedarville has been able to keep their heals consistent for this last, what feels like 4 team fights. It's really just one, just held out for a very long time. Really strong defense from Cedarville. We'll see if they will be able to win the final team fight and shut down this match for good.
It's been a very interesting positioning by Minnesota. They seem like they try to get their tanks into the back line to just try to distract the DPS and supports. And in the meantime, we're just trying to get that space in order to move the cart forward.
And oh, speaking of even longer sustain time, we also have another Adam Warlock ultimate available. Now it's going to be a little hard to push into this Namor, especially when he's got, his turrets and that ultimate there. But Logan catches another kill off of his ultimate here. Ryan dies early, but is resurrected again. Here's that earlier sustain fight I was talking about. And no matter how many kills Minnesota gets, Cedarville just simply will not die. And is pushing them slowly off the map. Catches point and eliminates. And much better, strong showing from Cedarville. This is not a strategy they can probably do consistently off every map, since this is much more of a bunker style. But it is paying off much better than their previous attempts.
You'll need a top-notch team to win this one.
I have never seen team fights last this long so consistently every single time.
It has been interesting looking at the past several varsity games for Cedarville. They've been usually been able to keep the opposing team within their spawn for a much longer time. However, with Minnesota, they seem like they really struggled with that. And it's interesting to see if Minnesota will be able to keep them in their spawn, or if they'll be able to break out.
That is assuming that they will be holding close, and I think they will, but not all teams practice it enough. And Penny, for example, our Penny, Hothead Skull, is a Penny main. So there's aspects to this that need to be considered here. If they have the key people who play the key characters for that kind of composition. Not all teams can do that. And we have 10 seconds until this next fight. Oh, technical difficulties.
Battle starts in 5, 4.
It's interesting. We also have Physics returning to Moon Knight once again. I wonder why he does that again.
Specifically against the clumping that we were seeing earlier. Perhaps he's considered this a consistent issue, so he's going to try and capitalize off of it. And as mentioned earlier, it does not seem that Minnesota will be playing that same bunker style. However, they do have the Phoenix here. Phoenix almost dies, has to run back to his team. I'm not sure if they're gonna, if that Phoenix will be able to get the angles that they were getting earlier. Team is looking kind of split in half. Actually, this is not looking good for Minnesota. Cedarville is already halfway there to their point. Star-Lord being forced back. No elims on either side yet. However, resource management hasn't been the best from Minnesota so far. They're using constant cooldowns, not much picks. We'll see if the ults change anything. However, Groot on Minnesota is very low here. With the right wall, he's going to get caught up. And then that'll buy him enough time to catch nearly the Star-Lord to death as well. Had they been a second faster, Cedarville almost certainly would have caught them on the back foot. Unfortunately, key ultimates got thrown in here. Magneto on Minnesota's end was a very strong. It got 2 picks, and Minnesota will wipe. Now, this is still not looking good for Minnesota because Cedarville still has 2 minutes on the clock, and very likely, ignoring a strange portal, will win in a one-team fight. And if they do another push play like that, where they're pushing the team back at the same time, then it will literally just be one team fight without a strange, even with considering a strange portal. Star-Lord is alone here. If they had Psylocke, they probably would have been able to catch him, but they're trading out that mobility for just more DPS on the tank line and support, since they're already so tight. Instead, that they're fighting for that top ground that Star-Lord was at earlier. They've had to use 2 support ults. Cedarville uses 1 themselves. 3 ults from Minnesota without any direct value that I can see. Cedarville catches 1, but Minnesota catches 2, 3, and Cedarville will have to go back. Now it's looking much rougher for Cedarville. Things are looking dire again. While Minnesota did put in a lot, so did Cedarville. And they have a minute 30 left. All that's left is Orion's ult.
Get that vehicle moving again. Tremble at Hellish approach.
I'm not sure what would be the better approach if they can try and rely on the fact that Ryan's ult has so much burst and just go for an early pick, or if they're just going to wait to build up more ults again. Star-Lord on the side, seemingly really pestering Cedarville's backline here. Groot really low. Unfortunately, some kills here. Star-Lord was caught out, but they traded with one of Cedarville's members as well. Enemy Magneto, Minnesota Magneto throws his ult, does not find any kills off of that. However, Cedarville's Magneto, Ryan does not find any purchase as well. However, he catches the kill onto the Invisible Woman. Is looking to catch this Groot here. If he falls, it's very likely Cedarville is in the lead in position and in the players. Ooh, Phoenix ult. Cedarville still ahead on key players. They're stalling a little too long here. However, they're going to be able to cap. If it weren't for the portal there, the fight would have ended. They weren't able to push earlier. Venom, and this is not looking good for Cedarville. There's not enough time to stabilize. In fact, Cedarville's supports aren't even quite there. But Cedarville replies back with the same Doctor Strange ult that we saw earlier. But it's much more of a trickling in, and not very... and not much of the grouped effort that we saw Minnesota do. It was a worth attempt, but Cedarville loses this match. Cedarville gets their first loss of the season. 3-1. While Minnesota State Mavericks looks absolutely dominant and sure to continue their steamrolling rampage elsewhere.
Although this was a defeat for Cedarville, I think they did an incredible job playing as a team, and I hope they continue to showcase this in the weeks to come. But unfortunately, they just weren't able to make it today. But oh well.
Much more to look forward to from Cedarville in the next upcoming games.
Absolutely. We're going to be taking a break this week for fall break for the students, and we'll resume games next week on Tuesday at 7 p.m. EST. Thank you all so much for watching. It's been a pleasure.